Hello, this is Juliana, Brennan, Matthew, and Dakota presenting Seize the Day, how sea level rise will impact the morning commute, regarding the increase in sea level rise and how railroad tracks will be affected. We will go over the science of the processes that control sea level rise, how the environment will be affected, the community level impacts, and what we can do to mitigate these risks. There are two main causes for the rise of sea level. The first is glacial melting from the poles, which adds liquid water to the seas. The other cause is a process called ocean expansion or thermal expansion. In this scenario, the water is warmed and thus becomes less dense. With thermal expansion, the water particles need more space and therefore will take over area that is currently for land use. This shows how glacial melt and thermal expansion can create a snowball effect. The more ice that melts off the glaciers, the more water going into the oceans. The warmer the water, the more it wants to move around because water expands as it gets warmer. This causes a feedback loop for sea level rise in which more water is going back in the oceans from melting off glaciers and the added water needs more space to go. This is why sea level rise is so dramatic because these two parts work together to fill the oceans with new water.
The data below is from Scenic Hudson and the Climb Aid model with low, moderate, and high estimates for sea level rise in the Hudson River representing the 25th, 50th, and 75th percentiles. The Hudson River sees an average of 4.5 millimeters of sea level rise per year, which is greater than the global average of 3.6 millimeters of sea level rise per year. The most likely sea level rise will be between the low and moderate estimates based on current global warming projections. However, we have already surpassed global carbon output predicted for the year 2020 back in 2012. So, without drastic changes, we are likely to exceed even the highest estimates by 2100.
Hello, welcome to the Marist Waterfront, Longview Shore Park. As you can see by this stick right here, this is current high tide. With a projected sea level rise of 30 inches for the Hudson River in the Poughkeepsie area, this is where it will be by 2050. This stick right here shows 54 inches of sea level rise predicted by 2080. As you can see off to my left, the bottom floor of the Cornell Boathouse will be inundated with water. If you look off to my right, we're a good 75 feet from current high tide. Well, here we are. With a projected sea level rise of 72 inches, I'm not actually even at the high water mark. This is what this Longview Park will look like by 2100. If you look in front of me, we are at least 125 feet away from current high tide. How does this affect you? Do you like taking the train? I certainly hope not. The images above show the flooding conditions along a section of the Amtrak MTA Railroad along 9D. The yellow represents the floodplain of the river. Current conditions have the railroad tracks well outside of the floodplain, meaning that even during the most severe storms, it's very unlikely the tracks will be inundated. However, with just 12 inches of sea level rise, well within the possibility by the end of the decade, severe storms are likely to temporarily inundate the tracks. By 2080, the railroad is permanently underwater, and with each successive decade, if we don't do something right now, the railroads will be at risk of flooding and permanent inundation with water. As we see sea levels continue to rise, the risk of the railroad being shut down increases. At 72 inches, the tracks at this particular location will be under 28 inches of water. At 58 inches of sea level rise, water will cause 15 inches above the tracks. With an increase of just 30 inches, pools of water 7 inches deep will begin to form around the tracks. Thankfully, by the end of this decade, we are not likely to see flooding. It's not just the tracks, but also the stations that will be underwater. These images show two different train stations. The first one on the left, Croton-on-Hudson Amtrak station, with sea level rise of 72 inches. The Amtrak station will be under 12 inches of water. The other image is of the Metro Manteo station just south of Garrison, which will be under 41 inches of water. One option for mitigation practices is engineered shorelines. While in some cases the best action is to leave the shorelines in their natural state, There are many ways that they can be altered or enhanced in order to be better suited for storm surge and higher water levels. This can be as simple as planting more types of native vegetation, which has many benefits such as increasing natural infiltration to the soil, dissipating any incoming wave energy, and providing new habitats for native species, while also protecting against erosion and having a minimal impact on the natural community. There are many different types of engineered shorelines that range from added vegetation to building seawalls. On the less expensive side of engineered shorelines, there are green technologies. These are low-cost initiatives that have the least harm to the ecosystem. A way in which this works is because it increases the natural infiltration of the soils. These are best for low wave energy environments and preserve the water quality of the ecosystem. The higher the seawall, the more energy these walls can endure. More harsh conditions to prevent sea level rise are going to be necessary. These come in the form of seawalls and bulkheads. Using this technique is best for high energy and unpredictable storms. Bulkheads are useful for preventing landsliding, while seawalls are useful for preventing erosion.